Welcome today to our stage 2 on the winemaking. It's been 6-7 days since we first started to do the fermentation of the Wineworks Superior Wine Kit, and we've been waiting for the gravity to drop from the initial start point down to 1010, where we're going to do a transfer into another container. So we just need to check the gravity using the ever faithful hydrometer. We've just given that a quick sterilise, but I'm just going to rinse it under the water now and drop it into the container. When I drop them in the container, I always like to just give them a little spin as well, because that just stops any air sticking to the side of the hydrometer. But needless to say, we're absolutely perfect. 1010 showing on the hydrometer, just about there. So we're now ready to do our transfer. Again, I've sterilised our siphon tube and I've sterilised our container ready to take the transfer. So I won't go through that with you now, just trust me that that's all been done. So we're just about to transfer it. We've several options on containers. This is the better bottle. The better bottle is a plastic container and again see-through, so it's quite nice. The good thing about the better bottle is it's just over 23 litre in capacity, so when we do a full transfer we can then top up with water without a lot of headspace. The other type of container is this particular one, which is quite a lot over capacity. We're looking at 23 litres around here, so we've actually got quite a reasonable amount of headspace. This is quite good for actually doing the fermentations in, but it's not very good for when we've done the transfer and we're letting the wine settle, because we like to leave the wine a few weeks in the container. Obviously with these ones we've got a little bit of headspace here, and that can cause infection, whereas with the better bottle we haven't. The other one, which is very similar to the better bottle, which I always like to use, is the glass one. This is quite heavy though, so you've got to be careful with it, and obviously they will break if they're dropped. This one again holds just over the 23 litre of actual juice. So we're going to use the glass carboy, and as I say, we've sterilised all that before, along with the siphon tube. Siphon tube, I'm going to use the auto siphon. It's my personal favourite. We've used these for years. I really like them because they're dead easy to use. Simply insert it into the container of juice, and all we do is a little small pumping action, and out she comes. You can see it now running through. I'd like to just wedge it on the actual container there, keep my eye on it. Only takes a few minutes for it to actually come through, so I don't run off and go do anything else, just keep my eye on it. It's only going to take us a few minutes, and then when we get near the bottom of the container I just wedge it underneath, which I'll show you in a minute. Some people ask me, why do we do a transfer at 1010? It's something that's come over from Canada, and the reason they do it is they like to have a nice big bucket like you can see here, where in the initial stages of fermentation it's giving off quite a bit of gas and it's not too restricted. If you compare the neck size with the demijohn compared with the bucket, it allows all those gases to get out. They don't remain trapped in the liquid quite so much as when you've obviously got a smaller top. The other real main reason why they actually do it is the yeast sediment sticks at the bottom, and those dead yeast cells, we really want to get the wine off those, so that when it's doing the final stage of fermentation and we let it sit on the sediment, then we haven't got the problem of the yeast infecting the juice. With this particular siphon tube, we've actually got an end on it which does help prevent us from drawing the heavy sediment at the bottom. It actually draws the liquid about so much above the bottom of the container. Another way obviously of doing it is you can, with other types of siphon tubes, they do a bucket clip which will actually attach and hold, and a lot of people actually put the lid back on almost securely in position, and that will again help to hold the siphon in place. I don't personally like doing that. I just like to keep my eye on it and just watch it all the way through. As I say, it's 2 or 3 minutes. It's not as though it's going to take us ages to actually do this part of the operation. The other thing you'll notice as well is there's a really good aroma coming off the juice. It really does smell nice. The fermentation is obviously still taking place, so we've still got plenty of action in here on fermenting. And the gravity, as I said, is 1010. We'll leave it in here until the gravity drops to 994, 995, something like that, depending on the type of kit that we're actually doing. But this particular one will probably drop down to about 994. Once the gravity's reached 994, we can then do the stabilising and the fining of the wine, but again we'll come on to that later. So we're now at the final stages of racking. You can see the speed it's coming through. The other thing that we like to do as well is we like to make sure the siphon tube goes right down to the bottom of the container. So when the juice is going, we're not getting air added to it. If you hold it at the top and let it drop down, there's a lot of air that can actually get into it. Here we're trying to avoid that, trying to avoid anything getting into the juice. So, now we're getting close to the end. What I like to do is I'd just like to get a little bit of a wedge underneath it. This terracotta pot, particularly useful, just to get the angle, and again I can see what's happening, so just hold the siphon in place while we get the final drops coming through. Okay, so we've now finished the siphoning process. I'll just pull this last little bit out. Drop that back into the bucket. There goes the airlock. And we'll just, as we've done before, we'll just half fill the airlock full of nice clean water. Put that in place, put it on top. You can see on the actual container that there's a little bit of headroom here, which is obviously through the process of fermentation, the secondary fermentation, the continuation of the fermentation. When we're going to let the gravity drop down to like 993, 904, we've got that little bit of extra headspace. Once that fermentation has finished and we've done the degassing, we will top it up. So you can see the importance of why this particular container is so good, because we haven't got loads of headspace. We can top it up with water at the very end of fermentation. And again, that applies to the better bottle as well. They're both a similar capacity. This one's slightly wider, that one's slightly higher, but they've got the same capacity. So all we're going to do now is we'll move our container and we'll leave it in a place where we can allow the fermentation to continue.